Hello, whoever this is, whatever day or year this is. Uh, anyway, it's been a while since I recorded one of these weekly things. The last one was the intermission. That was like 5 hours long. I was testing out OBS recording software. Really should have Googled to see what OBS stood for. Whatever. I figured some aspects of it out. Like I always like throwing myself into new software completely without any sort of instruction manual or anything. And I imagine the instruction manual for software like this would be fairly long, and probably wouldn't learn much from it, to be honest. Words aren't great at conveying information that well between people, and it is much easier, much quicker, much more efficient to learn through just doing or watching other people do it. And maybe I could find some instructional videos on YouTube or something, people going over it, but they have their own purposes, their own interests, their own reasons for recording. I want to figure out for myself. Especially, I'm going to be teaching two online classes next semester. A couple of child development related classes, and I kind of learned how to record myself. They're going to be asynchronous classes. Asynchronous it was a type of like a socialization where somebody puts something out there into the world and it kind of exists, and then someone else can come along and see it when they feel like it. So asynchronous teaching is like I will post a video of a lecture that I pre-record and pre-make using this OBS software, and then students will have a week to look it over and do an assignment, as opposed to synchronous communication, which would be just talking to someone in person, or Zoom calls or phone calls, one-on-one, like synchronous interaction, what's happening in real time. So even like text messages and stuff are asynchronous. YouTube is a form of asynchronous communication. You kind of put something out to a more public space, and then other people can see it. Or things like Pinterest and so all the other social medias, TikTok and whatnot, all forms of more asynchronous socialization. But some of them have synchronous forms as well. You can do like live Facebook or Meta feeds, and maybe live like Snapchat things. I don't know. I think I have Snapchat. Haven't used it in a while. Don't really have any need for it, really. Whatever. So some of the things I've figured out. Recording was taking up way too much space. So I went to the settings and made sure to decrease the frames per second to 30. And decrease the resolution to like 720p rather than 1020p, because in the video editing software that I use later, just to make sure the audio levels are right and stuff. I mean, actually that's the only thing I do, is just make sure the audio levels are right in a different program and then combine it with the video. But in that software you can only export videos as, I think, 30 frames per second 720p videos, which is what I post to YouTube. So there's no purpose in doing these recordings at Ultra HD or even like 1020p HD or 60 frames per second, which the camera can do and my computer can do, but really kind of irrelevant if I post it to YouTube at 30 frames per second. So it's all just taking up too much space, way too much space. So I just changed settings so the recording doesn't randomly run out of space, not to start over again, and I can have smaller file sizes. More efficient. Efficiency is what I'm all about. Efficiency is a big, important part of intelligence. I'll talk about it a little bit. I sort of plan to, at least. I don't have many plans for today other than just talk about stuff. I have a song I'm going to play, Stolen Wishes. Been working on for while, since summer of 2021, and then I'm going to talk about basically every piece of poetry I've ever written in my life, which is like five, 6 poems. Kind of talk about how I started, the story behind it, and into like writing and how it developed into songwriting. And kind of reflect on some of the themes, which one of those themes is reflection, which is fun little appropriate, I don't know, something, just an appropriately serendipitous sort of thing, I don't know. Still, I turned all my heaters and stuff off, and checked audio and stuff as well. I want to clean audio recordings. I think the big issue with past recording, at least, is I accidentally had distortion on my mixer, like that caused a lot of like little background noise. Yeah. So I made sure that's off. So now it's super quiet, and I can hear my own voice in my head with these headphones on, which is a little bit hard to get used to, with like your voice amplified in your own ears, with everything else kind of quieted down. That's one of the big recommendations I give to people who are trying to learn how to sing. One of the things that helped me a lot early on is put headphones on, talking to a microphone, listen to yourself, and you definitely hear all of the flaws in the way you speak and the words you use and the way you breathe and stuff. I think I've talked in the past about how talking to microphones has changed the way I speak, and for sure it has. But I've also noticed change in the way I like breathe from singing and from microphones. I can kind of do it like kind of quietly in the background between words, and I got way better at like taking deep breaths without actually going like like that. I can do it sort of pretty much, or at least it's super quiet or unhearable to me. I've also figured out like how to just display my face in the camera and keep Kanye Tree here, like without the software open up, so I can see myself and monitor myself without the software being open. I learned not very much. I learned like a dozen things from diving into OBS, but they were the most important things for me. To make it like usable and accessible to me. I had to Google a couple of those things to figure out the exact settings change. Way more efficient than some idiots trying to like read a manual and like memorize all of the software. Maybe I'll dive into some manual if I really want to know the ins and outs of the intricacies of it. Kind of waste of time if I can just figure it out by myself. It's more fun this way, way more fun. Anyway, how am I gonna do this? I like singing in the beginning so I can get it over with, just in case I make big mistakes. But I know this song really well. I play a lot, except for a few parts. Like I added a few sections this week, like using this video and stuff as motivation. I completed the song. At least 98% or so. So some things might change a tiny bit, but 2 of the verses I finished up. Like bridge verses I finished up because I didn't know exactly what was going to go in there until this week. Well, I knew sort of what was going to go in there and then the themes and stuff, but not everything. So they might change. This song, whatever, I'll just play it now and then talk about poetry and stuff afterwards. Why not? This song the idea of it started summer of 2021, vacation down to see my family, really on the way back up afterwards. And I was sitting at a fountain in Hot Springs, Arkansas, with my oldest niece, and we saw a cool, shiny $50 in the fountain, and we made it our mission for the next 30 minutes to use a couple of sticks to slowly like move the $50 over closer to us. Oh, here it is, by the way. Move the $50 closer to us and like fish it out of the water. The issue was it was a hot spring, or like a hot spring little pool with really hot water that you couldn't put your hand in. I tried many times, and I thought I'm gonna just stick my hand in real quick and grab it like a fish or something and pull it out. But the second my fingers touch the water, my hand, nope. My body says no. Our reflexes are very interesting, and they don't actually go to our brains. Some of them, with pain and like when we touch a hot stove or something, it sends a signal that hits our spinal cord. And if our spinal cord like detects a lot of pain, there's something called interneurons, and it instantly initiates a withdrawal, like of your body from whatever hot surface there is, because it detects a lot of pain, and it does that to protect you. So it's like the most automatic response you can possibly have is like a reflex of pulling your hand away from a hot surface, because it doesn't even make it to your brain. So it does after your hand is already moved away, and after it's just like gone through a circuit in your spinal cord to pull your hand back. So it doesn't involve the brain whatsoever. You can kind of trick your brain sometimes and be like, okay, I'm going to do this even though it's hot, and kind of do it. But it was way too hot for that. I couldn't. Anyway, we eventually used 2 sticks to fish out the shiny $50 JFK. You can hear my cat crunching food. JFK $50. It was a very meaningful little experience with my oldest niece. But that kind of started this general idea of stolen wishes. This is like a wish that somebody made and tossed into a fountain that I stole. Because who cares? I mean, they made their wish. They don't know if their coin is in the stupid fountain or not, and it's much more meaningful in my hands. And I made a song out of it. I did something with what I did. I did something with my like ideas. I turned it into actions, and then made a song out of it. And yeah, something useful and meaningful. And what did they do with their wish? They tossed a coin into a fountain and said, whatever, I wish for whatever. I can't think of someone else's wish, I guess. I wish for a bunch of money, which it would be stupid if you're throwing away money, you're asking for money. I guess that's what the lottery is and whatnot. And betting on races and things. Yeah, wishing for long life, prosperity, whatever. I don't know. What the heck do people even wish for? I don't do wishes. A little silly. Rather, take action, do things. That's a big theme of this song is taking, instead of just words, taking action in life. But it's sort of also inspired by my literary interests and stuff. I always was a big fan of Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft, especially, like little short stories and poems and stuff that are like weird and tell like off-kilter stories of some sort. So the narrative, the non-narrative narrative of this song is like a person who travels around and steals all of the wishes from fountains and stuff that people have made, and from shooting stars, another form of making a wish, like finding them and taking like the metal and the contents of that and creating a satellite out of it. So like basically a person in my artificial world is doing all that. Whatever. Yeah. That's all I really want to talk about. I'll just play it. And this was written especially for baritone ukulele. And it's meant to be very melancholy, kind of desperate, and a bit, I would say sad, but I think melancholy kind of covers the emotional aspect of it. Don't come over here, cat. Okay, come over here. Just don't interrupt the song. So, whatever I was talking about, this is Stolen Wishes. Oh wait, yeah. In order to get that kind of sad, melancholy, sort of relaxed feeling, I have to channel Nancy Reagan and relax my throat a lot, and I keep it relaxed throughout the entire process, the entire song. So, here is Stolen Wishes. I have to make sure my throat's relaxed here. For all the money lost in wells and fountains, how many dreams come true? I'll scour the errant earth and furthest mountains to collect it all for you. Every single night I wear a halo around my neck, and in its faint light clear the waters with my hands. One day you'll understand. In my autobiography I'll highlight all your names, and if you care to spare the stone I'll mark them on my grave. Words are just a means to end the silence anyway. I'd make you promises, but what the fuck are they worth in a world that runs on lies? Take my advice and don't rely on chance or luck. Their stories told to keep us in line. Wishes only work if you take time and action towards the goals you set in life. I steal the ones that people toss away and fashion them into a satellite. Stars that fell from somewhere better than here, how many make it home? They either melt down in the heat of the atmosphere or hit the ground alone. I try to mark their paths, and when the night gives in to day, I use what strength I have to clear the stone and dirt away, and carry them with me. I'd lift you up to see the stars before they drift away, but everyone you know down here would slowly start to fade. Space is just a painting on the ceiling anyway. I'd to the afterlife. They burn out in the sky, and so will I, so I can only hope my sacrifice becomes your satellite. Cat. He came and sat and rubbed against my ukulele. I did my best not to let it distract me, but inevitably it did a little bit. Good boy, come here. Yeah, whatever. Who's your good boy? Yes, this... I thought you wanted to hang out, dude. Oh, never mind. He just wanted to say hello for a second. This should be... E. And this should be E. Yes. Now it's good. Anyway, that's the song. Stolen Wishes. One thing I've been running into with it, and especially became apparent right here when I'm trying to play it like a little bit quieter, because it's 10 p.m. and I have neighbors and stuff, is when I get to this part, the second part of the chorus, I need to find somewhere to take a nice deep breath between the first and second lines, the first and second stanzas of the chorus, because I was like, wishes only work if you take time and action. And I've noticed that while walking around and standing up too. If I put more effort, more energy into it, I can do it, but that also makes it louder. So when I'm recording, I need to make sure I have it set up where I can actually project like I would if I were walking around my apartment singing rather than whispering into a microphone. Other than that, basically sounded like it was supposed to sound. I think. I'll know when I hear the recording. This, I changed this lyric. I just copied and pasted this from the last time I wrote this down. Let's see. I think yes, that's better. Yeah. Just some on the fly observations of myself and corrections and whatnot, so I don't have to worry about it too much later. And that's all I have for PowerPoint. I'm gonna switch over to... that can get saved and it can go away. Switch over to some poetry stuff. I think I'll save... I don't know. I have no plans for the order I'm gonna do this in. I'll do this one first because it's the one that was there when I closed my PowerPoint. This is an assignment I had for, I believe, human performance. I probably shouldn't put my name on the screen, even though I say it plenty of times in my videos. Learned from watching YouTubers that you probably shouldn't get your name out there, or at least if you have your name out there, don't put your location out there. But then again, plenty of artists and stuff just put their whole names out there, so I don't know what the big deal is. I doubt anyone's going to stop me out of the 17 people subscribed to this. But nor do I really care. So this was the second assignment, apparently, of that class. We had to do an analysis of some physical task. I'm sure... and we had like a bunch of criterias for setting up like a way of scoring the task based on these criteria that I'll go over. And most people probably did it on like lifting weights or drive a car or plowing snow or something. But I wanted to be weird and make my professor laugh, and it's easier for me to do assignments when they're actually interesting and new and weird for me as well. Like weird just meaning different, and which is interesting to me. So I tried to do it about writing poetry. I'd only been writing poetry for maybe a year at this time. Like I wrote my first poem that I'll go over in a bit, and I'll explain that. So yeah, that's about a year into even getting into writing any sort of poetry since high school, which I absolutely hated English classes and stuff. And thankfully I was dating somebody who was really into English, who later became like an English major, who kind of helped me along. Didn't do the assignments for me. Definitely didn't do that. I'm not being sarcastic either. I did my own assignments, but she helped me along. She was too good of a person to do them for me. I don't know if I asked her or not, but she didn't do it. I made it through high school though, with a hatred of writing and a hatred of reading and stuff, just because classes sucked and I didn't want to do it, and I don't know, probably other reasons. I was too cool to write or something. I'd have to ask my 16, 17-year-old self these questions. But I got back into it as a little bit of a hobby 2014. So 2015, tried to do this assignment on it, specifically about writing poetry on a keyboard. And these were the potential different aspects for calculating the task analysis, for calculating the scoring for a task. So the first one was the outcome. An outcome for a poem. I'll just read it, who cares? Outcome: successfully completing a poem is a win, while failing to complete it is a loss. This score is a binary criteria, means it's either 1 or 0, done or not, to determine whether or not to continue with other categories of scoring. Let's zoom in a bit for everyone's sakes. As only complete poems receive an overall score. So that's just a yes you did it or no you didn't kind of outcome score of whether the poem is done or not. Then the rates, the time taken from beginning to end of the writing process will be measured, as well as total length of the poem in characters. Those are the two measurable, quantifiable rates of writing poetry. So time in minutes, so how many minutes it takes me to write a poem, and the number of characters, not just the number of characters of the poem, so not just the letters but like the spaces and everything count as characters as well. And the power of the poem, in terms of this assignment, was just like the impact it has on the world, or the effect it has on the world. So the power in poetry is its ability to make people think, which could be found with the right equipment. If we could connect people's heads and see how much of their brain was activating, what parts of the brain that was activating and stuff. But no, I don't have that. So I will ignore that here for lack of fMRI machines or other means of acquiring such data. So no way of scoring that really and getting an actual power score of how it affects other people other than asking. And I wasn't going to share my poetry assignment with other people to get scores. So let's get and the efficiency aspect of the score. According to tweetcalories.com, I did a little research into this. Typing an average tweet at the time of 140 characters over 23 seconds burns 1.03 calories. That's calories with a capital C. From this score, it can be calculated that each keystroke burns around 0.0074 calories. So typing one letter or hitting the space bar or backspace burns that tiny fraction of a calorie. And to calculate calories burned writing a poem, this number will be multiplied by the number of keystrokes, including backspaces, used in writing. Calories burned per minute can then be calculated as an efficiency score of how efficiently one wrote. So a second efficiency score can be calculated by dividing the number of characters in the final product by keystrokes, ideally equaling 1. No backspaces are used. My cat is in the litter box now. He loves just, this is like his video. This is the cat video. He wants to be a part of my recording nowadays, I guess. So the accuracy of a poem or poetry probably, I even use the word probably lies in the level of congruousness or congruity between the author's intended elicited reaction from the reader and the reader's actual reaction. So how much of what you wanted to get across actually comes across. That's the best way of describing accuracy of a poem. It's hard to score though, so typos and grammatical errors will have to do. So how accurately the actual physical writing itself is. Again, I just didn't want to involve other people for this small little, like, one-day assignment I was doing. Cat, please. Please. Ridiculous sounds. Hey. Quit making noises. I'm trying to record. It's bothering me. It would just be a random background noise if I didn't bring it up. But I like talking to him. He doesn't have anyone else to talk to. So, expertise. Only poets' final products are available for comparison, not the time taken to write them, or the number of backspaces used or erasure, so this score is unobtainable. Not really sure what even that was intended to be for other tasks and stuff. I'd have to go look at the actual assignment, which I don't have. I only have my version of it that I recorded on this computer. And then lastly is the artistry score, which many people who did this assignment probably didn't have because they were shoveling snow or driving a car or something. There's no artistry involved, but I wanted to make sure to hit this one. So artistry is the most important score for poetry. The artistry of a poem can be described, by me at least, along 2 dimensions. It's physical beauty from a skillful word usage, prosodic flow, etc. A prosodic flow is like the meter and flow of the words as you speak them, and like the musical nature of the poem, even though it's not a song. There's how it sounds and the words used. And 2 is its more superphysical ability, or like beyond or above physical, to make people think and find meaning within, from the imagery, analogies, depth of the writing, etc. The score is entirely subjective, however. So basically, like the physical aspects that you can see and hear, and the thought aspects you come up with yourself, 2 forms of artistry in this case. Entirely subjective, blah blah blah, and okay, so that ends up in a final mathematical equation for calculating the overall an overall score for a poem, which is the outcome 1 or 0. If it's 0, there's no poem, so it doesn't matter. And if it's 1, there's a poem, so good. That's just kind of there for the assignment's sake. And then physical artistry times superphysical artistry, because I believe it's a multiplicative sort of relationship, that instead of additive, that it's not just the physical plus the super physical. It is, when they're together, they magnify each other, and a good poem or a good song, the words and the flow of it complement the imagery and the other non-physical artistic aspects. So they multiply with each other. So if they both have, so if one has a low and one has a high score, then they don't just, yeah, whatever, you get it. And that multiplication is important to give this score a very like big meaning, and poems sort of require both of those aspects in order to get a really good score in this way because of the multiplication. I'm trying to explain this in a way where any random 18-year-old or anyone in the world can understand it, instead of in deep mathematical terms and whatever. And that's multiplied by the keystrokes times the number of calories to get an actual like physical number of calories over time. Calories over time, basically, just like the efficiency, and that's multiplied by length and keystrokes minus errors, and yes, that's so this is like a time efficiency score, and this is more of a like end product sort of efficiency score of if there's any typos or grammatical errors or issues with the final product that it will cause a bad score here. And yeah, so I made a big long ridiculous equation to calculate the artistic score for poetry. And I hope my professor laughed at it when he read all this nonsense. Being overly mathematical with artistic stuff is fun, or overly scientific or anything. So to test it out, I wrote 3 poems. So to write a few poems I could score, I used a random word generator. I use this sometimes for beginning things. Text fixer, I'm not going to click this link, I have no idea if it still works. To produce 5 random words, and then I created a poem as fast as I could based off of those 5 words as much as I could in some capacity or another. For the sake of the assignment, I tried to create 3 stanza poems. So 1, 2, 3 poems I created. So let's read them. Let's read my poetry on YouTube. Sure, why not? So the first random 5 words that website generated for me were pipe, plasma, broken, favor, and fright. So I wanted to write some poem based on some scientific experiment or something going wrong and scaring people, basically. So I ran with that idea. So, swirling in a flask, cloudy phosphorescence, heat rises as black scars the bottom. Passing through a tube, solid line of white, form fades as essence is distilled. Shattered on the ground. Lab coats bang on glass, pleading for escape from the fumes. I watched too many zombie movies and stuff. So the score for this, it was complete. I gave it an 8 in terms of subjective physical artistry. It would be lower than that now. I'd probably give it like a 6 or so. But that's just good with what I did at the time. So 8 for physical artistry, 6 for super physical artistry. I do like the sort of imagery of scientists freaking out with some accident happening. And the kind of vague imagery of things. Now multiplied by the calories and keystrokes, 232 keystrokes overall in 8 minutes and 8.03 minutes, however many seconds that is. And I didn't make any mistakes. So multiplied and calculated all together, that gives a poetry score of 10.19, which means nothing unless you compare it to other scores. Then, let's see, poem 2. I believe I did this all in like one sitting, one after another. So I just kind of got better at it too, and which should be taken into consideration, I guess, if I cared. Poem 2, the random words were bone examiner because helmet folding. And so for that, wanted to go with more like a bone examiner and some kind of folding helmet thing. I'll just read it. Brushing dust away reveals fragments of those long gone. But what species of dinosaur has such small bones? The sun makes it hard to think logically. Wait, these are no ancient fossils we've found. They told me this was a routine dig. Bastards. A sip from the flask helps me clear my mind. I guess now I've become an impromptu coroner of sorts. A hole in the skull and the helmet nearby tell it all. Thoughts escape me as they did this poor soul. So it's about somebody, paleontologist, I guess, looking for dinosaur fossils, or he got like a lead on fossils or something, and he finds the bones to be much smaller than he expected. It's a human, and he finds the skull, and they were somebody with a hole in their head. So thoughts escape him as well as they did this poor soul. Fun little, I think, Poe-ish sort of little short story. If I expanded on it, made it into its entire little story, I could see something like, or someone like old Edgar Allan Poe writing something like that. Someone a little slightly darker sort of poem that has a twist. It's kind of fun. I like it. Fun wordplay and stuff. You go past me. And I gave this 7 with physical artistry, 8 with super physical artistry. Definitely I liked it a bit more than the last one. Kind of the same, just different proportions. But because the 8 and 7, because they are multiplied together, it has a much bigger influence on the overall score. It goes from 48 to 56. So the combination together makes it better. And then 434 keystrokes, so much longer of a poem. And then it's 10.49 minutes. Took me a little longer, but the poem was longer, so overall the efficiency wasn't too bad. And then 434 out of 440. I think I have 440 overall key hits. I backspaced and changed a couple things that I kept track of a little bit, and no errors. So overall 16.79 artistry score. Over 50% better than the last poem. Definitely liked the length of it more. I liked it was more of a narrative sort of story. Also being like fun and using wordplay kind of stuff. I enjoy it. And then the last one, I love it. I'm gonna spoil it. It's my favorite. But the last one, the words were stealthy, avocado, breakwater, biggest, and 5. What kind of story am I going to write about these words? Stealthy avocado. We'll see. So, 5 little avocados breaking out of prison, spoon dirt out of walls like pits out of them, finally through the walls and into the harbor, swim with little arms, but seen by a spotter. Turn around or push ahead, either choice is folly. Try as they might, they're all guacamole. I love it. If just for that last little line I love. They're all guacamole. The score for this, I gave it 9 in terms of physical artistry. I really love the word usage and the word play, and then guacamole and stuff. And 6 in terms of super physical. It's not really supposed to make you think, it's just funny. Which overall gave it 54. Not about the same as the last one. but a lot fewer words to get that same level of artistry. So 258 characters in 5 minutes and 5.92 minutes, however many seconds that is. So overall, because it is more condensed, it's fewer words, fewer keystrokes. I wrote faster. Even though it got slightly less of an artistic score, it overall gets a higher score of 17.2 because of the efficiency of it. Aside from subjective artistry, which is the most important factor, that big 9x6 score, time also plays a big role in score calculation. So this system would best be used as a speed poetry contest, if that's a thing. The score is more of a measure of art per unit time than art of itself. How quickly and efficiently one can create art rather than whatever the final product is. But the final product itself is the most important aspect of that equation. Overall, I'm pleased with my scoring system and the relative scores of my 3 poems. I was very happy with these poems and how quickly I wrote them, given how little experience I had. I'd only written 2 or 3 poems at the time I had done this assignment. It was kind of not just a fun thing to do for an assignment for a class, also a way to push myself to write poetry and then consider it critically and think about the important aspects of it. But yeah, efficiency, that definitely plays a big role in this scoring system. And efficiency, as I said, is a very important, often overlooked aspect of intelligence. There are various aspects of how the brain works, and I describe intelligence to my students as just the overall brain in motion. It's the entire objective of the brain to take in information and understand it, and then and hold it and store it and use it to do activities in your life, and use it to do creative things. So creativity is a big aspect of it, of taking what you know and applying it to new situations, and making any sort of piece of art that doesn't exist requires creativity, because you are creating something that isn't there, and you have to use past knowledge to do so. But the kind of third aspect of intelligence, the knowledge of things we have acquired and have stored in our brain, and this creativity of how we combine it and use it for new tasks. And there's the efficiency of how quickly we can get stuff in there, how quickly we can create new things in our heads, how quickly we can get them out into the world. All of that is aspects of efficiency, of how well our brains are wired together to quickly and meaningfully do things. And I've always practiced efficiency above most other things in my life. I like doing things like cooking and cleaning and stuff. I spend a lot of time thinking of the most efficient way to do it, and planning and designing it around that. With food, it's how can I only go to the store once, maybe twice a week, and get the exact things I need, and how can I store those in the right way where they last the right amount of time, and I don't have to waste food and waste energy getting more of it, and how can I use the least number of dishes and the least amount of time to get the most calories and the most nutrition and stuff out of my meal. So I try to plan and find strategies for doing all that. And the more efficiently I can do it, the less I have to think about it, the less I have to worry about it if I have to do it, and the less time it can waste. And that's the reason Bill Gates created operating systems where we have mice and folders and web icons and stuff we can click and drag and move around, is because of efficiency, or as he put it, laziness. He was lazy and he didn't want to type out every command that he had to do, and he didn't want to have to search through text directories to find files and stuff. He wanted to make it easier and more efficient and simpler and more intuitive, so he created him and, teams of people that he paid created an operating system where you can drag and click and move things around into folders and briefcases, and it's all so much more efficient and meaningful and easy to learn. And if not for one man's desire for efficiency, his laziness, then we wouldn't have that. We'd have computers where we type in big long commands that we want to do, and no one would know how to do them except for a small handful of computer programmers, and the internet wouldn't be where it is, and yada yada yada. So this search for efficiency is the reason we have operating systems and modern computers, and most likely like smartphones and all these things. It is people just wanting to spend less time and energy doing the things that they currently do. Yeah. So even early on, I was even thinking about that in terms of art. Yada yada yada. Da, 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 da. So I want to read this poem. This might be the last poem I ever wrote before I switched to songs. I think. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. It's the last poem I ever wrote before I switched to songs. It's about my sister who died, who was a children's librarian, and some of my takeaways and whatever from that experience. I can see a lot of some of the themes that eventually made it into my writing, songs and stuff were present even back in this time. Yeah, I wrote this technically for a poetry club. A poetry club that started on campus for the first semester, and they wanted some sort of introduction poem to describe who you are or some meaningful aspect of your life or something, and I decided to write it about the death of my sister. That was a big, meaningful thing in my life that kind of shaped what I wanted to do. Like, I wouldn't want to be a professor and teach if I hadn't known her and she hadn't died. So I wrote this, I don't know, in a day or two for like a weekly or monthly poetry club meeting. I stopped going to those. They kept trying to do like incorporate like little activities and stuff. They tried to overcomplicate it when it should have just been like everyone sits in a circle, and if you have a poem you want to read, yours or somebody else's that you found, then you can read it, and everyone like comments and gives feedback if you want, and just gone around the circle and done that every week. That's how my current songwriting group works. Just, do you have a song? Sure, let's play it. Then anyone who wants to talk about it, talk about it. And that's, I think, the kind of correct way to approach any sort of creative writings group like that. Yeah, but they overcomplicated it, and I got out of there. But not before writing this poem. Yeah. Anyway, librarian's mirror. You can see the early mirror metaphor and reflection and stuff that's present in so many people's works that I first incorporated into this. I don't have any specific like images of her using a mirror or a mirror being significant in any way in our relationship or anything like that. It's all just allegory. And allegory is if you skipped high school English, just like a theme that pervades through an entire work. Yes. Like you may write a poem about spiders, but the spider is actually like Winston Churchill or something. So it's an allegory for World War II, but it's actually about a spider's web or something. I don't know if... Yeah. So, I'll read it. I've been around, I've been a square, a face in many frames, and everyone who'd stop to look would look to make me change. They'd raise their rights, I'd raise my lefts, predictable and lame. I hung on walls 'cause I was scared of air and earth and flame. Then like a blur, along came her, she moved too fast to see. Oh, there I was, without a pause, a children's library. Of course, said John the horse. The children laughed with glee. I knew they'd make me glue, at least I got to be. The children left, she looked at me, with blue eyes, wait, brown eyes? Green? I remember feeling good, for the first time I'd been seen. Her hand was quick, it pressed on glass, and left a print on me. She softly whispered one loud word. She whispered to me, B. The dusk did crack, as I looked back, reflecting on that day. Then came the dawn, and she was gone. The wall was pushing, had to move, fell down with a crash, shattered into pieces, tossed into the trash. But then the birds would pick me up, they'd add me to their nests. Their chirps and songs reminded me to always show my best. They carried me around the world, the places from my dreams, across the C's and D's and E's, eventually to Z. A piece of me's in Disney World, at bars in Tokyo, on Bourbon Street in Hollywood, vermilion in the snow. A piece of me lies in a ditch, a handprint pressed on glass. I've been around, but it stays home, reflecting on the past. And every piece calls out to it, to show it what they've seen. It stays in place, but it's content, for through them it can be. So, a lot of these, even specific lines have made it into other songs that I really like. Like, I've been around, I've been a square. Made it into a new Booktubin song. And, where's that line at? Across the C's and D's and E's, eventually to Z. That made it into another song that's on YouTube. The one I recorded after I almost died. I forgot the name of it. I always forget the name of songs. But the one I recorded in a hotel room. Yeah, I made it into there. And probably some other ones. That was fun. Fun little bits and pieces of wordplay and humor that I put in to dull the sad nature of the overall song. Dun, dun, dun. I did a lot of little fun little creative things too. Well, fun quotation marks. Of having two lines and then having a little bit of silence here. And then it gets sort of frantic afterwards and have like a stanza with only two that doesn't really fit with the flow of the rest of it. It kind of breaks the flow and cuts it off after that silence happens, and it kind of falls back into a more predictable pattern. Yeah. What else can I say about it? Not much else off the top of my head. I mean, a lot, but not that I really want to talk about. That can go away. And then I think I posted that one to Facebook on her old Facebook wall. It was more for me and for her. So let's start with, here's 3 poems that I put into one document. These are the first 3 poems I wrote 2014, maybe the beginning of 2015. So the first one I wrote is called Cosmic Reflection. The first time I ever wrote a poem after high school. It was 7-8 years after high school had ended. The first time I ever attempted to do anything artistic in writing on purpose. So the story of this, I should have prepared. It's big, long. crazy story. Let's see. Basically, I'd moved to a different city to go to grad school, and I tried online dating for the first time. And online dating was really different back then. There were like so many different sites. There weren't really that stood out. I think OkCupid existed, eHarmony existed, which is like weird in its approach and like unscientific, and requires a subscription to actually do anything. So my option was like OkCupid, which I tried a little bit. I think I went on 1 or 2 dates with that. And then I tried various other online sites that I could find that kind of relate to more specific interests and stuff. The one that I use that's related to this, I think was called Love for Wits or something. It was like a dating site specifically for people looking for more intellectually stimulating relationships and people. And I created an account, like didn't see anyone, like there was no one around within like 500 miles that was even using the site. So I was like, okay, whatever. And I left and forgot about it. And then months later, a girl messaged me from Croatia. A medical graduate student in Croatia was on the site and sent me like a small little message, like she liked a quote or something. And we became like pen pals for a month or so, and would send each other long paragraphs about our lives and questions to each other and stuff, and we were talking to each other. I never saw her face. She didn't have an image. But she liked to write short stories in English about like kids' short stories about going off into space and stuff. And she sent me a little story about like a brother and a sister going up into space, like homemade rocket, and landing on a meteor or something. And it was a fun little quirky, whimsical kid's story that she'd written. And it was very good. And of course, I lied to her at some point, and I told her I wrote poetry, which is something I like thought about doing and I wanted to get into, but I hadn't done before. But she asked me for a poem, so I had to, over the next like couple days, put together a poem. And it was inspired by her interests as well as mine, so a combination. And it was inspired by like this like video game I was developing in my head at the time, and like part of the world of it. Yeah. So I sent it to her. She liked it. We kept talking for a while, and then my sister died, and I think that was the end of it. Like I got distracted and stopped talking to her. Her name was, or is still, Millie. Short for, I don't know, Maleficent or something. So if you're out there, Millie from Croatia, this is for you. But yeah. Fun little story. I don't really regret it or think about it. The only reason I know her name is Millie is when I was thinking about talking about poetry in one of these videos, I just searched my Gmail for loveforwits.com and found like a couple of the old messages, and there was a name, Millie. I'd forgotten it for years. But things that could have been. I could be living in Croatia now with a doctor who writes kids stories about space. But here I am somewhere else doing something else. No regrets. I like the way life's turned out. But fun story. I should work on that story and find some way to incorporate it into a class or something. I have like a collection of a few dozen stories, or maybe a few hundred stories at this point, of little personal things from my life that I really didn't have until I started teaching and had to come up with things to talk about in front of class. But anyway, this is first poem I ever wrote myself. Cosmic Reflection. A bubble rests on a pedestal, neither glass nor water. Phosphorescent dust floats within, spiraling, spectral. The night sky is speckled with bright dots, seemingly motionless, distance unimaginable from this perspective. Words and numbers dot a monitor emphasize the center. Sharp lines forming waves upon waves, meaningless to most. Life forms move around on a planet, emphasizing themselves, occasionally questioning their own existence. A man glances down from screen to sphere, taking a break from work. He would see his own reflection if he but squinted. A man longingly stares up to space, taking a break from life. He would see his face reflected, but for a black veil. Yes. It's packed with a lot of meaning and symbolism I had at the time. I can't remember all of it. I can definitely see the beginnings of the AI afterlife, and the beginnings of all the imagery that I would later be using in terms of space. Like, I don't know if I'd have such a big emphasis on space in like my Stolen Wishes song and other songs that I talk about space and made into the album and stuff, if I hadn't written this and been a sort of pen pal to a random girl in Croatia on a random website on the internet. It's a little wacky that all those things kind of combine together to lead to where I currently am with my art and stuff. The general imagery of it is I was kind of really thinking about two extremes. Like, you can either in your life kind of analyze things in more and more like detail and depth, and look like down at things like many like biologists and chemists and stuff do, looking at tiny things, trying to understand the little intricate details of the world. Or you can, look up at the grand everything that there is of space and the universe, and those are two different ways of exploring life and human nature, and the universe is looking at things in more and more detail, like inward and downward, or outward and more the second word that I can't think of, outward and outside of oneself. So it's looking at those two different perspectives, and wish I'd have a picture or something to explain this, but in the poem there's one man looking up at space, one man looking down at like a fake universe, and they can kind of see each other. I don't know how much of this I should actually be explaining. And the idea, like, words and numbers dot a monitor besides the center, sharp lines forming waves upon waves. There's someone sitting at a computer, like, creating a fictional universe themselves that is in the form of like a little sphere, like a globe that has a little galaxy in it, or like a marble or something. And when they're looking at their screen, it's just numbers and waves upon waves, which is like sinusoidal waves, which I was studying a lot back then with psychoacoustics and linguistics and stuff. So they just represent the changes over time of what's going on in this little universe. But then, like, he created a universe, and it doesn't really mean much to him until he glances away from his screen and stops trying to analyze the details of it, and actually looks at the beauty and nature of the thing he's created. If he but squinted and took a bit closer look at it, he'd see like himself looking up at him. And then there's another man that lives in this like artificial universe, or you can call it the AI afterlife. Well, I wasn't then, but you can now, where a artificial universe is created, and there's little fictional artificial beings in it, and it can look up and ponder its existence and think about gods and space, and if not for the black veil, if not for the vast emptiness of space, he'd see the other guy looking down on him, and they're looking at each other. Different directions, but meeting in the middle. Or just two different perspectives of life and how to view anything and how to view yourself. And that, yeah, it's definitely... I hadn't read this poem in years, probably, until I was gonna do this video again. And it's so crazy how similar, like, the themes in it and stuff are to what eventually became AI Afterlife. And I like the meta aspect of, like, I could be the man sitting at a computer who needs to take a break to appreciate, like, life, or I could be the man who looks up at the sky. Either way, fun little poem. I like it. I tried to make it into a song at one point, but it's too uniform. There's not really a way to make it melodically work. And I could definitely add a little bit of music to it to spice it up a bit, but I don't know. It wasn't written to be a song, so it's not really that way. And then, second poem I wrote, Deus Ecstasis. And this is as well about, like, a little small, more Lovecraftian story, or Lovecraftian inspired story. Yes. And from the beginning, it always had a melody to it. So it was a little bit more than a poem. Like, yes, it's a poem, and I didn't know guitar at the time. I didn't know how to sing at the time, but all the lines have a melody as I was writing it, and as I was creating it, and practicing it in the shower and stuff, or whenever I was writing it. So Deus Ecstasis. It's a play on, like, Deus Ex Machina, but stasis is... stasis is body, I believe. I mean, that's soma. What is stasis? Something like that. Anyway, so if it's like God, and Deus is God. So Deus Ex Machina means God from the machine, which old, like, Shakespearean era term used when a god would descend down and completely, like, fix some character in a play's problems and fix the events and reverse everything or something. It was just an act of great power or god, or the machine, which they just called, like, the people working behind the scenes in a play. So yes, God out of body, which has a few different terms depending on how you view it. Anyway, should I, like, sing this with no accompaniment? Maybe I'll sing the first line. So it's supposed to be, I'm out of time, I'm out of place, I fell from fucking outer space, made a home out of my mind. Inhabited by chance or will, with tiny beings, fractal shells, drifting specks within the tide, struggling to stay afloat, stretched thin by the undertow, crawling vein fists clutching sand. Out of sight and into mind, sunlight fades, I try to find someone else to understand. I saw her standing there, and then I tried to think, to comprehend her power over me. Impulsive spark, electric flood, synthetic chaos some call love, dissipates my apathy. When lost in time and stuck in place, with eyes closed shut, she shows her face, just another grain of sand. Pressing waves across the beach, I'm grasping but she's out of reach. Fickle moonlight bites my hand. Guided by a stranded sound, finally my prey I found, pulling her into the sea. Past the shallows, towards the depths, all plus one means one is left, and from two a trinity. Yeah, if I was actually making this doing a song, it would have to have, again, more variety in it. It's just the same thing over and over again in terms of the melody, which is fine for a poem. But it's definitely learned to experience that songs require a bit more variability for people to retain interest in them. You have to change the emotions of it, change the intensity of your voice, change the speed of things, change the themes, change the melodies and the notes and all that stuff to make it sound interesting. So this, the general idea of this, I was reading a lot of Lovecraft at the time and getting into, like, if you don't know who Lovecraft is, he made, like, Cthulhu, and that's the only one that anyone would know. A bunch of, like, elder gods and stuff, like aliens that came down to Earth and like went to, like, the Arctic Ocean and sat there for 2 million years until they came up and, like, they mind control people and stuff. He wrote a lot of weird nonsense like that. So the basic idea of this is some all-knowing, all-powerful eldritch god descending and coming down to Earth and kind of hanging out for a while, and then, like, time and location don't really have any meaning to him, and all the human beings and other life forms don't really have any meaning to him. But somewhere in all of that infinite chaos and nothingness, he latches on to, just like one person. I saw her standing there, like, place and then at a time. So he somehow locked into a specific place and a specific time and saw this person and fell in love, or fell in something, at least. Fell in interest with her, tried to comprehend her power and why he was interested in her and whatsoever. Like, why should he care? He's some all-powerful eldritch being. And then he tries to understand it, and he has difficulty locking into her after that initial experience. Just another grain of sand. Because to him, all mortals and all time and all things are just sand, and he is the ocean. I like that symbolism in it, of every living being is like a grain of sand, and he is the ocean that presses across it, and he's, like, incomprehensibly huge and magnificent relative to all the smaller beings of life. But also made it very difficult for him to actually find her and then lock into her and get a hold of her. But eventually he does. He gets into his prey, as I put it here, pulls her into the sea, and that combination of one being, like one finite being, combined with everything, like the all-knowing God that represents everything, that combination of that produces a child, or produces something that is greater than the sum of its parts. Which, how can it be greater than the sum of its parts if its parts are everything and one little piece of everything? But somehow, through that duality of everything and the finite one thing, or become something greater. Anyway, I like, even back then, there was that symbolism of the self, of there is us as an individual, and there is everything in the universe that is big and scary, and it's like this big all-knowing God that we try to understand, and it tries to understand us to some extent. And then, like, the beautiful thing is the thing that pops up in between those, the sense of ego, the sense of self, of us in a larger universe. I won't get too weirdly poetic or artistic with it. I just like that relative to psychology and stuff. And definitely, again, I see this reflected in my current art. Although, I don't know if I probably won't include eldritch gods in the AI afterlife. Maybe it can be some weird, like, computer program that makes its way into the AI afterlife in its, like, inception, and then eventually down the line like, kind of manifests itself. Or maybe the program itself develops some sort of consciousness and begins to interact with the individual beings within it. I do like the idea of that, especially from a more narrative perspective. If I'm writing a story that's set in that fictional world. Yada yada yada, yada yada. Man, it probably took me a really long time to actually write and finish all the different lines of this. At least a month, I would say. If I had no recollection really of doing any of it. I kind of remember some of the thought processes that went into creating it. Like, I remember all the eldritch influences. And I was probably just, like, researching and looking into different aspects of psychology that kind of lended their way into the themes and stuff. Like, sinusoidal waves made it into cosmic reflection. There's definitely, here's a nice little psychology verse, impulsive spark, electric flood, all about, or synthetic chaos, some call love. And synthetic, I like the word synthetic, because it can mean fake, like artificial. That's usually how it's used in modern days. Like, a synthetic life form is like a created life form, but it can also mean like synesthesia or something, where we are combining different senses and different ideas into creativity. So that synthetic chaos is our brain trying to comprehend something it has difficulty comprehending. And that act of wanting to understand something dissipates his lack of caring. Yeah, I see myself obviously reflected in certain aspects of this and this, but not so much of myself. Not a one-to-one, more of a sarcastic representation of myself, or not sarcastic, facetious. Facetious is more just like a fake version of yourself that you present. But yeah. I really like that. I like the melody, but making it into an actual song, not really gonna happen. I tried. I did. I had like guitar chords for it that I can't remember anymore. And here's one I wrote. For some reason, I really don't remember why I wrote this or anything about it. Other than I wanted to write a poem that has different, like a fun, weird, creative poem that has like different meanings whether you read it or say it out loud. Like if you just hear it and you don't see the words, you pick up like different words than if you actually read it and saw the words on the page. Like even the title, Intercept, if you didn't see the words intercept here on the screen, or if you're blind watching this, they are two different words. The word inter and the word sept, which I think is like a religious building or some ridiculous nonsense. It's just derived from the word seven, like sept. A septagon. Is a septagon a thing? But sept means seven, and religion, for some reason, like the number 7. That's why we have 7 colors in the rainbow. Da Vinci discovered 6 colors in the rainbow, and he decided to make it 7. Was it Da Vinci? No, it was Newton. Isaac Newton studied light, and the church at the time believed that white light was this holy, pure thing, and Newton's theory was that light can be refracted or broken down into many different colors, like the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon cover of like a triangle with the white light hits it and a rainbow comes out. So he was the first one who researched this, Newton, and I think it was Newton. Was it? Yeah. I'm recollecting this from years ago, but he found that you can break light down into 6 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. And those are the 6 colors. But the church didn't like that you could break down the pure white light into 6 different colors. So in order to skirt around that and make it so the church would accept it, he decided that you could break white light into 7 colors, which is why we have indigo and violet, which are just 2 different variations of purple. So Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. It was all just Newton trying to appease the church by making light break down into 7 colors so they would be happy. And we still carry that crap with us today. Instead of just calling it purple, we say Roy G. Biv, and we think indigo and violet are actually different colors, and technically they are, but it's really just purple. Whatever. That has nothing to do with this. That was just a random aside that I thought of. The same professor who I did that poetry assignment for, I also learned that from. Newton did a lot of things. It could have been Da Vinci. Oh my god. For some reason in my head, those two, like, prolific artists / scientists kind of mix in my head in terms of what they specifically did. Research it yourself, I don't care. Anyways, intercept. I'll say it first, and I'll try to think of some things to talk about afterwards to make it interesting. Intercept. Close eyes, connect. In with output. Feel special. Give 1 to 3s. Subtracting adds. Accept all. Empty the shell. Here's noise inside. Write what's left. Vaguely interest. Arcing, sparkless, never kept. Fire 5, move more. Envy no one. Live, live, live. To think oneself, in 2 others, given gift. Mind set in glass. Waving goodbye, not off course. Aren't I so sure people aren't me? Order more. Lines border lines. Disorient, capture, prey. Outlive the ants, inching towards me. Sweet decay. Apparent trance. Eyes with disdain. Crack the soul. Windows rolled up. Fire on impulse. Cover hole. Manic empress. Feeling less thought for her tea. Facing a blur. Embrace the blank. Ecstasy. And if that made no sense, it's because it was supposed to make no sense, really. And again, there's a lot of lines in there, like in with output, like in without, and subtracting adds is just a weird little wordplay. Subtract add. Accept all. If you hear that, you would might presume it's ACC, EPT. Here's noise inside. Technically it's here, each H-E-R-E, but you could hear it as H-E-A-R. Write what's left. Just tons of little weird wordplay with every single line and every single stanza. That overall is just kind of a mishmash of nonsense. But I love it. I do love it. It's so weird. I wish I could make this weirdness into a song, but it would be like a strange freeform jazz poetry reading nonsense. My favorite line though is "Outlived the ants, inching towards me, sweet decay." I like the imagery. But yeah, generally there is a theme of internet addiction and dependence that made its way into this current album, Who Counts the Trees. And it's about getting onto the internet or getting into some form of media and kind of losing yourself in it so much, thinking you're getting something out of it when you're not really. And yeah. X to C, which ecstasy. Yeah, but click that X on your screen and kind of get rid of the internet and get rid of the software and remove the distractions and remove the different forms of media consumption that keep one away from living life to actually see the world the way it is. To some extent or another, that theme is the biggest one in there. Yeah. A little weird honestly, because like going back and reading these, I said it like I haven't read these in years, at least a couple years, when I like changed computers and like put my portfolio of writing and art and stuff together to make sure I carried over from my last computer. Is the last time I probably read these. I haven't really thought about them like since I started like making music and stuff. But yeah, the themes strangely align with all my current themes and ideas and stuff. Not too surprising, I guess, but a little weird how well some of this stuff kind of fits in with modern me and modern my modern writing. And if I really wanted to make these into songs or make them into poems I would like give to people to publish or something, I would change things up, clean them up based on what I've learned so far. The reason these are 3 poems on one document that I saved is I think I submitted it to some poetry competition for some big magazine or something. I don't think I heard back from them. They probably got thousands of submissions, and they probably want something a little more to the point and less strange and highly specific to me and my themes and interests. I think that's it. Sure. So yeah, that's basically all the poetry I've ever wrote. I think I wrote one more thing for like a class assignment or something. I don't know if I have it anymore. It was kind of longer though, and it was very specific to that. Like I wrote it about that event or something. But I'm not some prolific poet or something. I haven't really written that much. I've definitely written at this point way more songs than I ever wrote or tried to write poetry. And it's a lot easier to write songs and stuff now. I don't think I could go back to writing just words that don't have a melody to them. They definitely go hand in hand at this point. That sometimes the melody pops up first and then the words, or the other way around, or an idea pops up and then I try to find the melody and the words to both fit with it. I don't really think there's anything that would justify having a poem without the melody and singing along with it at this point. I don't know, those might be all the poems I ever write. Unless, I don't know, I lose my voice or something. Get brain damage and lose the ability to make melodies. Anyway. What else can I talk about? Any questions? Any questions from the audience? No, this is not a synchronous communication. No one can raise their hand and ask questions or type comments or anything for me to respond to. So I guess sort of all I got for you. Yeah. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this random poetry reading, an update on my life and stuff. A small update, at least. Like I said, teaching 3 classes next semester, and that's kind of where my mind's been a lot. And my mind's been a lot on like how I'm gonna record and stuff. So practicing with this weekly thing is definitely helpful. And getting the software set up so I can easily and quickly and efficiently make those recordings is very nice. Very nice, not just that I can do it, but that I don't have to be anxious about figuring out how to do it, because that's a big thing that stops me from trying new things, is like having tons of software and tons of things to learn and work on to figure it out. But if I know how to use OBS, whatever it stands for, and make these recordings in an efficient sort of way, and the sound is okay enough for other people's computers, and I'm okay enough with talking to myself in a microphone without any synchronous feedback from people, then yeah, what's there to be anxious about in terms of teaching? I already know all the material. I already know I can record videos and how to post them online and stuff, so it's all good. The cure, or here's my one last random psychology / art learning related thing. The cure for any sort of anxiety is knowledge. It's a very simple equation that if you have anxiety about something, that means you have the energy to worry about it, the energy to think about it, but you don't really know how to do it. If you have social anxiety for speaking in front of people, or for sharing your artwork or something, the anxiety stems from a lack of knowledge. Like if you knew what it was going to be like to stand in front of people, and if you knew that if you made a mistake no one would care, and if you knew that like no one is really like judging you, well, everyone is judging you, but no one is really actively like negatively judging you, and if they do, then that's their problem. If you know that, and if you know all the small little aspects of public speaking that you acquire over doing it, then the anxiety becomes, just confidence or charisma or whatever. It is the energy that you had that was going to worrying is now just going to doing the activity and being done with it. No need to worry about it. And I think it was this year, the beginning of this year, like last semester, 2023 January, where I finally felt, like before class started, I felt I have no anxiety about this. I have no worries about this whatsoever before the first day. And I just walked up to class, and I could like just talk normally and like make little jokes before class about where everyone was sitting, and I could make little comments about like people talking to each other and making friends with each other, and all the other stuff to kind of amuse them before class started, and just have normal conversations. Because the anxiety of like, am I going to be able to public speak? Like, what if I run into issues? Is all gone, because I've run into all the issues already and found some way to solve them and learned efficient ways of teaching. So, there's your equation. If you have anxiety, gain knowledge about the thing, whether through other people or words or videos, any sort of asynchronous communication you can find online of other people who've gone through the same thing. You acquire knowledge of how they did it and how they do it, and then practice a little yourself in your head, hypothetically, or in person with people you trust, or in small scenarios, or thrust yourself into it like I did in front of a large classroom of people. I think 30 or 40 was my first class. And you learn things through that. And then through learning things, you gain more and more knowledge. And that knowledge changes the anxiety slowly into confidence. Anyways, I've drawn this out long enough. No more appearances from Wolfie. I think he went to bed. But he made enough appearances in this video that I can put him as like a co-star or something and give him second billing. Alright. Goodbye. Have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it happens to be.